Are you sure you want me to take part in this go-kart race? Sure thing, boss. A few years back, I started my first job as a mechanic and was informed of a mandatory monthly kart race in the local track, which was promoted by my boss and owner of the company. He didn't care if you enjoyed it or not. He booked the time slot and we all had to show up. After working hours and paying our own ticket to drive. It was supposed to be a team-building exercise, and I could see the boss really liked race cars through the various pictures and trophies in his office. During the week, in anticipation to the event, boss would participate in setting the mood for the upcoming race. It was the only topic that week, and I was told by colleagues that this was really important. I knew that, on the evening of the race, I had to pick up my girlfriend, and that would clash with the race. So a couple of days before, I told my supervisor that I would not attend the race. It was after hours and on my dime anyway, so I didn't think it would be a problem. Some 20 minutes later, I'm summoned to the boss's office and he's not looking happy. He tells me that building the team spirit is one of his priorities and that I'm new there, so I was to give a lot of focus to this monthly event if I was to keep working there, because it was part of the core culture of the company. I really needed the job, so I just said, sure thing, boss. On the evening of the event, I drive to the kart track and, upon arrival, I see my colleagues all in jeans and t-shirts and my boss in full ballerina attire. He had racing overalls, racing boots, gloves, and even a custom helmet. It dawned on me the reason for the event and why so much attention was given to it. Kart racing was his thing. With about 15 racers, I asked to start dead last. Boss man listens to me talking and intervenes in front of everyone that we were there to race and not to just drive around slowly. Up until that point, I wasn't really paying much attention, but I decided to comply and show how much the core corporate culture was important to me. Starting from last, I proceeded to overtake all other karts, including boss man on the outside of a fast corner. Overtaking on the outside is often seen as a bold, arrogant move. After just a few more laps, I reached him again, and as I was about to lap him, he went into the pits and stepped out. I duly won the race, and as I left the track into the bar, the real team building event, someone tells me that the boss had left. At the bar, the topic of the evening was how I had outraced everyone and how the boss, who had won all races since ever, was livid with my performance. Too bad for him. I guess I forgot to add to my resume that I had raced karts competitively as a kid, so I knew what I was doing and shattered his, Ricky Bobby, dreams. After that, I was always courteously invited but never again required to show up to his events. I went a few times but arrived late on purpose so I would just take part on the bar thing and not the race. Monthly mandatory unpaid events to stroke the boss's ego. SMHH. Why is no one having fun? I specifically instructed people to have fun. Quote, my favorite ones are paintball with bosses. First time I showed up, I only brought a mask. I knew the rental markers well enough. The bosses all had mid-level tournament markers. Next time I brought my hockey-sized gear bag. That was when they found out I played at that field 2 to 3 days a week and had been for a few years. You should submit the overtime. If the time is company mandatory, then it's company paid. Mandatory, fun, for work. I'm getting paid, on the clock for this. Work is also footing the bill. In the Navy, we call this kind of thing, mandatory fun time. Years ago someone came up with a mini indie go-kart racing deal that went from city to city. The company I worked for dived in head first as there was some charity involved and it was a good political event for the company. I was ordered to attend. I was into go-karts. But I wasn't into this as it was a stock 5 HP Briggs & Stratton engine. Top speed maybe 30 miles per hour. Plus the rules were very restricting. Engine RPM was checked. No changes to the gearing was allowed and so on. I had a go-kart at home that would do well over 100 miles per hour, so this was like driving a moped when you were used to racing bikes. I had raced kart some, so I think the owner believed I was their ringer. Anyway, I refused to do it and was told in no uncertain terms by the owner that I had to. It sucked that I was a salaried employee, so no money in it either. No incentive for me to show up, let alone participate. A few other employees were all into it and more wanted to participate, but couldn't as only so many could be involved. The owner would not let me drop out and have someone else that wanted to take my place. The racing had been announced daily throughout the company and everyone was encouraged to attend. The night before the race there was a large banquet we were required to attend and a bunch of stupid games the racing teams played. I participated, but didn't put any effort into it and got a bit of heat from it as it was obvious I was not trying. The day of the race there was nobody there except the few employees that were required to be there. Not even the owner of the company that was pushing this down our throats. I was one of the drivers, and when it was my turn I just took a leisurely drive around the course and finished in dead last. My manager that was involved was busting my butt for not pushing harder, and I just looked at him and said I needed to get paid more if I was expected to compete. A second heat I was in the kart had a minor breakdown, so I DNF. I got a bit of backlash from it the following week, but it was worth it. I also reminded him I didn't want to participate, and perhaps some other employee that was interested would have been a better choice. There was other issues working for this company, but I left soon after. A little lesson in humility never hurt anyone. Maybe he should use it as a lesson to not force people to do things they don't want to do on their own dime. Update needed. Who picked up your girlfriend, or is she still waiting? Paintball with the work team in the 80s was fun. This was before it turned into a full auto festival. My arch nemesis with his military training would boast about his probable victory, so I made sure he was my first kill every round. I was a LT in the Big Red One paintball team in the late 70s and early 80s. Team sniper mostly. Usually climbed trees for a good hide. Nobody ever looks up. Whack. Damn it. Our place tried to have health and wellness days. At least they were paid time. The day was, first half talk about health issues and the second some fun activity, like an obstacle course or big inflatable joust games. They could actually be fun for me as I like challenges and am in decent shape. The funny, sad thing was many of my coworkers are not in good shape. So, 2 people injured on the obstacle course. A couple on the bouncy stuff. My partner wrenched his hip just playing floor hockey. The wellness days were accounting for most of our work injuries. Now they just give us the wellness money in reimbursement for gym memberships or running shoes. Things that promote fitness. Similar scenario. Different sport. Compulsory fun. Work function. Pizza and 10-pin bowling. Boss was highly competitive. Gym junkie type person. I wasn't on the same team as boss. Couple lanes over. First game. I just chilled. Wasn't trying hard, but getting back into my routine. Wasn't the highest scorer, but didn't embarrass myself, and was high enough to attract a bit of attention. A few people hinted at challenging me during the second game. That was when I found my line and settled in. Second place was 20 pins below me. That was about when I revealed that. It may have been 25 years earlier. But state-level representation at a sport leaves some skills in the memory banks. This brings a smile to my face. I've often clashed with my bosses about team-building events. Outside work, I'm just not interested. And they often threaten my employment if I don't show up. Which is such nonsense. That being said, this strongly reminds me of a time in my late teens. So I'm going to piggyback a bit. A friend of mine was big into Halo multiplayer. And whenever we got together at his place, that's all he wanted to do. I wasn't a big fan because I'm not a huge multiplayer gamer. And it gets boring fast. As he'd grab either a sniper rifle or a vehicle and kill you over and over again, making it unfun. Eventually, he realized I wasn't really enjoying myself and stopped demanding that I play. In the background though, I was enjoying the story mode of the games in my own time, and had even started pushing through them on the highest difficulty. His brother though would often smack talk when I came by to hang out but refused to play, calling me a pansy, and telling me I had no guts to face him as though he was the best ever. I'd just shrug it off and do something else while they played. Finally though, one day he pushed the wrong buttons while they had a 4-player game going. And I finally agreed to play once if it would shut him up. And proceeded to 10 headshot in a row killstreak my way through the match like a machine. Because if I can beat the legendary AI, a couple mooks who always do the same things over and over again aren't going to be that tough. A few minutes in, the friend who gave me his controller even started actively cheering me on as I put them in their place. I finally put the controller down with an 8:1 KD ratio at the end. And the brothers just watching me agape. And never asked me to play again. After the race, should have gone with, "Boss, my first race was a lot of fun. We get to do this every month?" Quote. I hate working for companies that promote the mandatory fun activities, especially if it is non-business hours and at personal expenses. Also with the underlying thought that you will probably be fired if you don't attend. That last part is what pisses me off the most. For Christmas one year the owner's kids came up to everyone and said they wanted to send their parents on a 2-week European cruise. They asked $300 from everyone to cover the cost of the gift. I never gave and had each of his grown kids come up and start pushing me to give my share of the money. This was actually brought the day they fired me. If I am not being paid, it's not mandatory. Simple as that. We did kart racing once. It was on company time and the company paid for everything. That's how you do a team building exercise. I have a standard policy that I have never broken. I do not provide personal financial resources for company business. No passing go. No $200. I have had managers scream at me and I just wait for them to stop screaming and I just repeat my position. They have threatened to fire me. I simply tell them the same thing again. I don't give a fuck if they do fire me. I still won't break my rule. I remember the time that my boss thought it would be a good idea to have a paintball session as a team building exercise. Really? Having coworkers shoot each other to increase bonding and teamwork. None of my coworkers have ever been in the military. Very few of them have ever held a firearm. I served in the military as a police officer and as a private security professional overseas. Boss man was all dressed up in fatigues and acting really tough. So I went hunting. I lit boss man up more than once and he never even knew it was me until later. By the time the game was over, he looked like he had been dipped in paint. When I was young, I thought car races were won with better cars. To some extent that is true. But the older I get, the more I realize that the driver is often more important. The one that had me in stitches was a Top Gear episode where they took a woman who was an experienced race driver to the Nürburgring track, and she raced a bunch of amateurs in sports cars in a lorry, and proceeded to wipe the track with them. Lol. In college I had a shitty job at a shitty company with a shitty manager. They had shitty mandatory monthly events that I hated. Prior to the third one, I told my boss I didn't want to go as I was not feeling well. He threatened my job, so I showed up. About 15 minutes in, my stomach is churning and I head to the restroom. I accidentally stumbled and projectile vomited all over him, in his hair, in his ear, down his shirt. For the remaining time I worked there, he always kind of jumped back whenever he saw me approach and never again insisted I attend those stupid events.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.